Hey y'all, here are OS Reviews. Today we're taking a quick look at the Soundcore by Anker Space One. These are their newest pair of active noise cancelling headphones here in the second half of 2023. So this will build on top of existing models such as the Space Q35 and Q45 that we have seen in the past. It presents another good value proposition as these are priced at under $100. They support the LDAC audio codec, so on supported Android smartphones, it has high-res audio wireless, and of course you can also use them as wired headphones as well. It has adaptive ANC, which is a function not found on some of their older headphones, so it means that it will automatically change the intensity of the noise cancellation depending on your surroundings. Also comes in new colors such as this powder blue, though you can also find it in a pink and a more conventional black color. They're using 40mm drivers, and battery life is rated at 40 hours of continuous music listening with ANC on, up to 55 hours with ANC turned off. Aside from this new design, a little bit more streamlined, they also have wearing detection sensors that were missing on the Q35s. So there's a proximity light sensor in here that knows if you're wearing them versus taking them off to automatically play and pause the music. Other quick packaging contents include the user guide, in addition to a soft carrying pouch, color coordinated with the version that you pick, and you also get a auxiliary cable 3.5mm, also in this blue tone for this version, plus the USB Type-C charging cable, pretty standard stuff. Taking a closer look at the design, they're quite flexible in terms of degrees of movement. In fact, they claim there's a new kind of 6-axis rotatable cup design that was missing from previous gen models. So as you can tell here, it just moves a little bit more as you're wearing them over your head and should provide slightly better ergonomics and comfort versus the previous gen models. It is significantly lighter as well, primarily because the frame is constructed out of some soft touch rubber and it looks like polycarbonate plastic as opposed to more alloy and metal on the surface. So maybe that's an area where they were able to cut costs a little bit more. Even the headband portion does feel a bit more like polycarbonate this time around. But the upside is you do get a lighter wearing experience. So if you're using it for longer listening sessions continuously, it's going to be a little easier on your head. Otherwise, you can also see on the left side cup, that is the ambient light sensor, a little bit of a dimple there on the otherwise very soft memory foam cushions. And I do like the overall streamlined, kind of curved look of this particular gen. There's a bit of branding there on the edge. Otherwise, we have on the bottom multiple microphones for picking up your environmental noise. Controls include a play pause button, and there's also a volume rocker. Other edge here features the 3.5mm headphone jack, USB Type-C for charging, and then just the power key and a noise cancellation on and off switch. So in terms of aesthetics at least, I do think it looks fairly stylish for the Space Ones. The Soundcore application is similar to past products we've seen from them and still very fully featured. So inside here we can check out a gauge of the battery percentage remaining and switch between ANC, normal, as well as an audio transparency mode. So under the ANC settings, you can trigger the adaptive mode to automatically turn up or down the intensity based on your surroundings, or go into a custom mode. There's a dialer between 1 and 5 for weaker versus stronger ANC. Under the transparency mode, you can similarly have the ability to slide between 1 and 5, amplifying the sound around you versus having it more quiet. Similar to the transparency mode, there's a new function called Easy Chat, which will lower the sound of your music and make it a little easier to have a very quick conversation, then you can release and the sound will resume again. So it's kind of a short burst as opposed to the transparency mode being on for longer durations of time. Under custom EQ options, you can again go into Hear ID, effectively performing a hearing test, and based on if you're able to discern different frequency ranges, it will boost neighboring parts to give you your own favorite sound experience. It actually is quite effective in our previous tests and can make a pretty big difference on just making the sound a little bit more dynamic and lively. However, you can also choose between some default options from Soundcore that have been tuned out of the box, which can also elevate the bass, be better for acoustic tracks, electronic, pop, so on and so forth. And there's even a custom option where you can slide on the bars here to represent different frequency ranges. Then further down onto controls, you can remap the ANC button to again turn on and off that mode, as well as whether you want to cycle into the audio transparency mode, as well as double press. to activate the bass boosted mode from there as well, which is a pretty neat software shortcut. Finally, under safe volume, just like on some recent buds from them, you're able to set a maximum decibel range, and it will trigger an alert if you've exceeded that amount, preventing hearing loss if you are always listening to higher volume soundtracks. Under additional controls, you can also see if there's any firmware updates, and also turn on and off the auto wearing detection for play and pause if you find it to be useful or not. And under sound mode, you can more importantly turn on LDAC, which is turned off by default. So LDAC will send more data via Bluetooth to give you closer to a high resolution wireless experience, but because of that, the latency will slightly increase. So as a result, it's best suited when you're listening to studio albums as compared to if you're watching videos. You want lower frequency, then you can turn that function off. Now, you can also take a look at pairing multiple devices. So you can, for example, connect it to your computer as well as your phone and simultaneously switch between the audio sources based on when you're playing and pausing the sound, which is quite neat. And also auto power off the headphones if not used for X minutes. So very granular, and the Soundcore app continues to be a highlight for Anker's products in general, I would say, versus the competition, especially in the budget price range. Don't really give you quite as deep of customization over all these controls. Moving into performance and audio quality, I have to say that the ANC is punching above its weight, especially on lower frequency sounds. In the maximum intensity mode, you can almost drown out all the fan noises and engine sounds if you are traveling, say, in a car, on a subway, or in a louder office environment. Voices, though, will still creep in a little bit, especially higher pitched sounds. That tends to be an area that ANC, as the current technology form, is not quite able to completely repress, but still is doing a good job here, again, around 35 decibels or around a 98% rating or so. Comfort was excellent, like we talked about, because of how light they were. All of the different joints of movement did make them good for continuous music listening without even building up too much heat, especially here in the summer season, which was a bit surprising as well. Audio quality was very clean, so I didn't notice any hints of static or hissing in the background. I could walk around the room around 10 meters and it stayed connected without any issues either. As for audio tuning, the dynamic 40mm drivers have plenty of energy, so if you are using Hear ID or the Soundcore signature EQ modes, I found them to be great for most pop tracks. EDM music I'm listening to give a very satisfying thump in the lower end, but at the same time not too overpowering. It still felt pretty tight and precise, well controlled, and I could still discern instrumentals and vocals without too many issues. I would say for a single driver pair of headphones, they deliver very good sound, although if you are comparing with even more expensive flagship grade, say dual or triple driver headphones, you can theoretically squeeze in even more detail on extreme ends of the frequency, but I would say good enough for the vast majority of use cases. I would say the sound quality isn't necessarily night and day difference compared to the earlier Space Q35 and Q45s, which were already very good in this department. It's more that the comfort of the entire design being a little lighter, offering more joints of movement, that just felt slightly more ergonomic as you're listening to it, but the sound profile and tuning is actually very similar. So if you're considering upgrading from an older model and you're satisfied with the current sound and fit, then it may not be enough to justify it just yet. But if you're coming from a, let's say, even older pair of headphones, and you're considering something that offers good performance without breaking the bank, then this might be a good contender, especially with a slightly more, again, streamlined design. You can check out more details if interested in the links down below, but for now that's been our video. That's been the Soundcore Space Ones.